Hi, and welcome back, Bonnet Heads. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us. I am Pamela Bob, your Gen X first generation reruns Little House on the Prairie fan and creator of the award-winning series Living on a Prairie. And I'm here with Dean the Prairie Machine. That's right, my hashtag imaginary boyfriend.
That. Dean
Dean
the
Butler.
Prairie Machine. Thank you.
That's it. I'm calling you that from now on.
I love that.
Been
That's
hustling
really cool.
and bustling. You know, you got your book, you got your events, you got your stuff. It's all happening.
And tax returns for days. Yeah.
Tax returns for days, as we were just talking about. And of course, we're here with our favorite prairie bitch, Allison Arngro. How are you guys?
Is there any other prairie bitch? There's
No.
only
Is
one
there-
prairie
I mean,
bitch.
I guess Nancy could be, but she's
yes,
not
that's true.
the prairie
I was a bitch. She was psychotic. There's a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's
Even
mental
she
illness,
knew that.
and
She
then
told me so. She knew that. It was
Yes,
different.
very
she
good.
She said, I was going for crazy. She said, good. I said, I think you nailed that.
You got
Yeah,
it.
We're good
Yeah,
with
you
that.
got
She
it.
nailed it.
Yeah.
She nailed it. Where's the Emmy Awards for crazy?
Really?
Yeah,
She told me.
You guys just got back from Cherry Blossom
Cherry
Festival,
Blossom
correct?
Festival. It is a phenomenon, this thing. I was just say I had, well, you and I are both on their Wall of Fame now, which is Alice and I are now on the Cherry Blossom Wall of Fame. We signed the etchings of ourselves to prove it, which they actually did a really good job
That's
with
the
that.
Marshfield, Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival
Yes.
Wall of Fame. Not to be confused with anybody else's Cherry Blossom Festival, because the amazing Reverend Nick, who said when he first started this years ago, I want to have a Cherry Blossom Festival. And his wife said, honey, there's no cherry trees here. And he said, technicality. I'll plant some. It'll be
that
fine.
story, I'll never be not fascinated by that story.
He is all over, and he has created.
It could have been so much easier for him, you know?
Well, how many people are at this thing? It's like thousands of people show, and how many celebrities? My God!
Well, I think it's a really and it's a fascinating cross section of sort of legacy entertainment, iconic political families. It's sort of a fascinating thing, and everyone gets along really well. There is this sense that we're all part of something that is part of Americana.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the uniting force in all this, is that we are all part of the American experience.
And that's his big pitch. He said, we are here to talk about the history that unites us, not divides us.
Yes, right.
The things we love that unite us, not divide. And that's his whole pitch.
Oh, I love that.
And he's got, it's like Grover Cleveland, President Cleveland's grandson auctioning off cherry pie, and then like Lululemon from Hee Haw, and then some Waltons and some Little House in the Prairie.
Like you do.
Morgan Fairchild.
Like you
Morgan
do.
Fairchild was there, okay?
I saw a picture of you with Morgan Fairchild. So what?
I
mean,
just,
why?
and
Morgan Fairchild
so
brings
I
us
went-
together.
I-
If there's
so-
a great new uniter, she's it.
Yes.
So I sat with Morgan and we rolled a little social media video, and it probably was a disaster. I wanted to talk about the moment in Morgan's career where I think she had perhaps the funniest scene in the history of Friends with Kathleen Turner. I mean, it's one of the great comedy scenes. That's something that's a little low cut. That dress is a little something of you're a little too old for that dress, and her response was, that's a little too much penis in that dress.
Yes,
it's just
Kathleen Turner played a
just
trans person.
fell off my chair when I first heard that. It always works. Morgan was the bombshell of the 80s. Certainly at
she
NBC.
was.
She was the bombshell of the 80s.
Good last weekend too. She was, and this is the event. It's so crazy. They had a official cherry theme tea party, Princess Tea Party, a Cinderella theme, and Leslie Ann Warren, the
that's
beautiful
right.
Leslie Ann Warren,
Leslie
was
Ann
coming.
Warren.
And last minute,
I
she
love
could
her.
not make it. She couldn't come. I don't know if she had a conflict. She was sick. She had
Oh.
and at last minute, they called Morgan Fairchild and said, can you do it? And she said, yes, I can. And came in. And then she said, man, why wasn't I here the whole weekend? This thing's great. I got to come all the time.
She's like Batman.
They-
it's like in an emergency,
put a
call
light.
Morgan
Yeah,
Fairchild.
call Morgan.
And
Yeah.
Morgan was there in the beginning when in the battle against AIDS in 82, 83, 84, when it was like Liz Taylor and, Madonna and me, it was Morgan Fairchild.
Yeah.
Morgan Fairchild was there at the front lines way back in the day. She's a beautiful person. She lives down the street,
Does she?
She's down there. Great person. So you had her, and then you had a Secret Service guy who was there
That's
at the
right.
Kennedy assassination.
Yes.
You had various.
What?
Yes, they usually have a panel on the Titanic and have researches about that. They had the Dred Scott panel, descendants of people involved in the Supreme Court unfortunate Dred Scott decision.
Oh my
from
gosh.
both sides, descendants. And they have a panel and work it on out at the Cherry Blossom Festival.
And then
Whoa.
who was the gentleman? He with his impaired sight, or with his, he had something to do with 9/11.
The man who went down 72 flights of stairs blind with his dog at 9/11, yes, and survived, and took a bunch of people down with him too.
And
was
so
amazing.
he was there. Now, different dog. The dog, obviously, he has a different service dog now. But what a
Saved a
lovely
bunch of
guy!
people.
What a lovely guy! And the dog. I mean, you see service dogs, and they're just these wonderfully trained animals that are so loyal, and it just sort of warms your heart when you see that. But this guy, yeah. So this is the kind of thing that goes
everything.
on at the Cherry Blossom.
I want to know who the booker is. Like, who's the
It's
guy with the
Reverend-
Rolodex?
It's the Reverend Inman. is
You
the
want to
booker.
go? You want to
What-
go?
what-
Because I can get you in. We can go.
Well, at this
it's a
point,
thing.
it's sort of like, how could you not want to go?
Everybody
You've
wants to-
got Grover
Mary-
Cleveland and Morgan Fairchild.
Mary McDonough of the Waltons talked me into it, and who was we had Truman. What was
Yes,
Truman's great grandson?
President Truman's grandson.
President Truman's
was there.
grandson,
Gosh.
and
Yeah,
his theme was telling stories about first ladies, and so he was talking about crazy stuff his grandma did, and it was
Oh my
He
gosh.
told a very inappropriate for the audience story about Jacqueline Kennedy.
it was awesome.
that I'm not
I
going
love
to
him
repeat
already.
here.
But it was good.
And you're looking at this saying, what would possess you to tell that story
was funny.
in front of this audience?
It was really funny.
And
How
but
was it
I'm
received?
feeling like this guy, he says, if you invite me, and President Truman was known to have a salty
Hi.
vocabulary.
Yes, and so his wife and everything. That's
Yeah.
what he made clear. Hey, my dad, as my grandpa said.
Yeah. So anyway, he told this story, and I'm sorry, I'm just not going to attempt to repeat it, but it was very funny and got nervous laughter in this very
no.
evangelical crowd.
Oh no.
And the Reverend Inman looked like he, blanched. He turned white.
The Reverend was
yeah.
under the table, but there were people at his table sort of snorting and going, "Ha ha!" that that this happened at that dinner, basically. But and then some of his stories were lovely, but it was a whole thing because they're pushing on first
Yes.
ladies was a theme. They were
Yes.
doing the
Well, it was
lady-
First Ladies' Day, wasn't it?
And
I mean,
it
that
made
was-
you certainly think differently about many of your stodgy first ladies. Apparently, not
Whether
so
you like it or
stodgy.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether you
Said
like
some
to or
wild
not.
stuff when the mood struck them.
One of the coolest things that I received at this event, and there are always these gifts. There's a gentleman there, and I don't know Rich's last name, who was the former steward on Air Force One. He just
Lamont?
retired. There you go.
It's Richard Lamont.
Richard Lamont.
Yes. Oh my God.
And
It's amazing.
Richard
We love
gave
him.
me a challenge coin. Do you know challenge coins? Yes. Challenge coins are for military people. And it's like when you go to a bar and you're with a bunch of military people, you're supposed to have your challenge coin in your pocket and you tap it on the table and everyone's supposed to produce their coin. And whoever is the lowest ranking challenge coin buys drinks for
everyone.
everybody. So I received the challenge coin for the President of the United States. There is no challenge coin of a higher rank anywhere than that. And so I have the Joe Biden presidential challenge coin, and I'm going to guard that carefully, and I'm going to whip
Yes.
that out on my brother and my brother-in-law, who are both Navy flyers, and they're buying.
All right, you have me beat.
That's
I have
great.
I have a Homeland Security challenge. I have challenge coins.
Okay.
Shockingly, people. But you're right. You can't
Oh,
beat that.
can't be
You
beat.
got us all beat. But it's that kind of event where you get challenge coin. And he
Yeah.
had an auction of things that like things from Air Force One.
Yes.
It was mind blowing. So you had these kind of things.
M&M's from Air Force One.
And then you had all these wacky celebrities from every show. Johnny Whitaker from Family Affair was there. Everybody was there. And then all these presidential a lot the Carters. The Carters are always
Yes.
there.
Oh my God. I took a picture with Rosalind Carter's sister, 88-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
I took a picture with Mary Eisenhower, the granddaughter of President Eisenhower, who bought my picture. I bought our Little House pictures in the auction to contribute
Yes.
to the foundation. Mary Eisenhower came up behind me and said, "Put your picture back in the queue. I will buy it." And so I bought all 3 pictures for $75. She bought my picture for $350 to contribute to contribute to the foundation. Lovely woman. This is sort of the cool thing that you run into at the Cherry Blossom Festival. These presidential families and really lovely people, so committed to the history of our country, the legacy of their relatives. And regardless, political parties have nothing to do with this. It is much more about, it's all about service to the country. And it's very refreshing on that level. So, Reverend Inman, if you're listening to this, you've done a good job.
Rah, rah, America.
Yeah, man, I want to see that Rolodex you've got.
He's got
that
quite a
is
Rolodex.
wild.
The woman who played Little Zuzu in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
She's a regular. She lives there.
Zuzu's Petals is, she's
Petals.
always there.
She's always there.
It really is like the best of Americana,
and
right?
she does
Like,
sell little bells so you can ring and an angel will get its wings. But they've also started another program. They raise money for Zuzu's House for homeless teenagers.
Wow.
Because yes,
cool.
it's that
P.S.
kind of
you know,
place.
Zuzu has been having to stash bells in her pocket her entire life. Petals and bells.
Yeah.
Her
She's got bells.
entire
of
life.
course.
She has
And
bells.
love doing it too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's just
She's
like it's a
lovely.
really special thing.
Oh, how old is she?
Oh gosh,
She's
I
gotta
don't
be in her
know.
80s.
But and Tinkerbell couldn't make it.
Yes, Tinkerbell was supposed to be there, but couldn't
She's
be
the body model.
This is the
for
most
Tinkerbell.
This is like a acid dream. This
Exactly.
festival right
When
now.
Mary McDonough
This is the
called me,
weirdest thing I've
she
ever
said,
heard.
You have to come to this. She's tried to describe it. And I said, are you okay? Are you on some kind of medication? When she tried to tell me, she said, just come to this thing. I can't explain it. It's completely insane. You'll love it. And I went, I'm coming here every year now. Yes.
Great.
Yes, I
Well,
am.
you guys
We
look really
didn't
happy
see her-
from the little photos I saw.
Yeah, no, really fun. And of course, so we did that where, in 2 weeks we're off to, well, some of us are off to Lake Pepin. You are not off to Lake Pepin. You're off to some other event, and we're
coming
going to
to
Independence,
NYC.
Kansas. Yeah. Okay. Right. Of course.
I'm going to Chicago, baby. And then New
No,
York.
Chicago
I'll see
and
you.
New
I'll
York.
see you soon because I'm
Yes,
going to
you
New York.
will.
after
There you
Chicago.
go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We're
so
Pepin.
we are all over the continental United States and perhaps and beyond during this calendar year.
I'm coming to
it's-
Kansas. Coming to Kansas.
Okay. Yeah. And I've never been to Independence, Kansas.
No,
I've not been to that
I have
venue.
been, but not to the Little House venue.
Okay.
They were closed.
Looking forward
Oh.
to that.
I'm
Yeah,
so
looking forward
excited
to that.
to go.
That's random that you've been there, but not for a Little House event.
Exactly.
Interesting. All right. Well, shall I
Yes.
say what we're doing
Do
here
it.
You
today?
should.
We got so many awesome questions that we are doing a part 2 of answering your questions today. A part 2 of answering your questions. But before we get to that, I need to say from the studios of UBN Go in Burbank, California, this is a special event podcast. That's right. You're listening to Little House 50 for 50. And we're so grateful to Simi Valley. I got to sing it after that for their commitment to present this podcast that celebrates this 50th anniversary year. What a bash this whole year is. Lord, lots of events.
It's huge.
Allison, who else do we want to thank?
Oh, we have a bunch of
putting you
people
on
to
the
thank.
spot.
We do know, but I know because there's a bunch of them. First of all, Cozy TV. Hi, you rerun us. We love you. Cozy
Hi,
TV.
Cozy.
Road X. Good old modern Prairie. Yes, that's my arch nemesis selling her pantaloons and her dishes. We love her. Price Ford. City of Simi Valley. Yay. And Adventist Health of Simi Valley. Lovely people. Thank you all for your support of our Little House 50 for 50 podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys ready for some questions?
Yeah, let's
Always
go.
so ready. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to start off with a banger. Here we go.
Okay.
Dean. Obviously, the first kiss in Sweet 16 and Laura and Almanzo getting together was a massive thing in the show. But how did you feel about their relationship later on in the series, like through seasons 8 and 9, for example? And how was it behind the scenes with Melissa once you'd worked together for a few years? And this is from Rena Swarkles. Rena Swarkles? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And to add on to that, Maria Capuro 19 also asks, will Melissa Gilbert be on the podcast?
We hope eventually. All we can do is ask. And I think that Melissa will come on during the year, and it may not be until we get closer to September. I mean, it
Sure.
might be, that would be the logical time.
There's a lot
perhaps.
going on this summer.
It's
She's got a lot going on. We got a lot going
it's a
on.
busy time, but when Allison and I proposed this podcast idea to her and asked her to be a host, she was very quick to say, a regular contributor to sit basically
here,
with us.
just,
She just said, I'm not going to be able to do that, but I will guarantee, I will promise you, I will make some appearances. We haven't gotten her to say when she's going to make those appearances.
Sure.
But
Well, we've got all year.
She's gonna get here. So now, in terms of the question,
Do you need me to
Good
repeat anything?
no, well, I think what was the
Well, how did you feel about the relationship later on in the series, like season 8 and 9, and how was it behind the scenes with Melissa once you'd worked together for a few years?
Been married
think-
a while.
Yeah, I think I think there was this sort of magical point when Melissa started dating for for real, and was starting to have some life experience, beyond infatuation from a distance, where suddenly, look, I don't know that she was ever fully comfortable with the situation, but
Allison's giggling.
But yeah, Allison's giggling. Allison, you're in a much better position to say what she
I know,
was
'cause
thinking,
Allison
because
probably
you
knows.
knew everything that she was thinking. But I would say this is that I think that Melissa, for the most part, there were some snarky things that got said in headlines of, in articles, the interviews that she did and so forth. But I think on the whole, we got along fine, and I think we recognized that we were in this together, and we had to step into that, and I think we did. And I would have loved it if we'd been a little closer in age, so that there was maybe a little more common ground between us. But, and I've said this before, but I think the fact that we were this distance in age helped the sweetness factor of the relationship. It kept it sort of this storybook thing that the audience, I think, really wanted. And so in that sense, I think it all worked out really well. But Allison, what do you think?
No, she did grow to like you.
Oh, she did?
Because, okay, she was basically just a little freaked out at the beginning because she was so young.
She grew to like me.
It sounds like grew to tolerate
That's-
you.
you need a
That's
t-shirt
It
of
says
that.
everything, doesn't it?
It grew
That,
to like
that's
you.
going in the merch
Like-
store right now.
Yeah, she was freaked out at the beginning because she was 15. She hadn't had like a real boyfriend or gone on a
No,
date.
and that's so difficult.
And-
I mean,
absolutely.
my God.
And so she's like,
Absolutely.
who is this guy? And if her mom wasn't sitting next to the camera crying, that probably would have helped. Did you see my parents come down there when I kissed
No.
the pig farmer? No.
Nope.
Nobody. I was left to my own devices. So it was weird for her. And then as time went on, and you obviously, I'm sorry, you're just a very lovely, non-threatening, scary person. It's not like, oh, yeah, Dean, he's so scary. It's no. So it was like, okay, this guy clearly is not some kind of threat.
I bet she
for
was
God's
thinking,
sakes.
knowing some of her, dating experience later, I bet she was saying to herself, oh, that Dean, I wish he was a little more scary.
Oh, probably. I think that was the
Yeah.
thing, that you weren't scary. So she was like, eh.
Yeah,
She
no
would have
danger.
She would have liked it to
He's-
be a little more dangerous.
She liked the bad boys. I think that's
Yeah.
clear. I think
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
publicly copped to that. She liked the bad boys, and she was like, "What? I got Mr. Goody Goody over here."
Yeah. Now she's married to a really good guy. I mean, maybe
Yeah, I
a little
know. And
quirky,
then it
but
all
a
comes full
really
circle.
Good
See?
guy.
And I
Yeah.
think just then she was like, I don't know. Now, but here's another thing. Okay, so we know how things go on sets when people who are working together or playing husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, actually start dating. It's a crash and burn nightmare
Yeah.
looking for a place to happen, right? It's when people actually start doing things and going out with each other, it often ends very badly
Yeah,
with
it
people
can.
like having to quit or get fired and can't be in the
Yeah.
show, or they have to do the scenes, but I have to shoot it like, with a body double, and I'll come in
so
tomorrow. when
glad
they're
that,
not
we didn't get into any of that.
Yeah, you go all Joan Crawford,
Yeah.
Betty
It would have been
Davis, where you
complete.
can't
I
be
would
on
have
the
been
lot.
arrested before that could have happened,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes, you would
but,
have.
Yeah, I would have been arrested.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
given that that's the case, and I'm a very law-abiding person, I was not looking for a way to get arrested. So I'm very grateful that we didn't go down that
But I'm thinking
road.
she also may have then balked at having any attraction, that had she, as you grew more comfortable, as she was no longer terrified of you and you were just a person, and she got to be 18, you're normal, that her brain said, no, don't go there at all. Don't like him, because God forbid you become attached to him. And there is some kind of relationship here. Then what? Yikes!
Well, that's a very generous way to look at it.
And so she may have just
that's
gone,
extremely generous.
You ick, run away. But of course, then you say, but what about the times that we've read about? Well, in her own book, where she did indeed have relationships with the leading men. Oh, well, because they were
many times, it seems to me, the way she wrote the book.
She's copped to it. It's true. But here you go. But they were the bad boys. They were the bad boys. They were that type.
Yeah.
A leather jacket and a cigarette, kind of thing going on. And, God, you didn't even smoke, did you?
No.
Yeah, see?
Oh, no.
He's a good boy.
Yeah,
that Dean Butler.
To do with you.
No.
There you go. You were too.
Gosh,
you were too
it's
good
just
for
so,
her, man.
For how awkward it must have been on so many levels for both of you.
Yeah.
It really is amazing how wonderfully it played. And if anything, I also wish that she could have been slightly older when the, romance part of the relationship started, because you can see her inexperience. You can see she's a little uncomfortable. And I'm sure she, as a matured, seasoned actor, also I'm sure looks back and goes, ugh, if only.
No,
but what do you do?
I'm sure.
The real ones were they were 10 years apart. You were only 8 years apart. The real Almanza was even older than her. So what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you just pretend that Almanza was 15? Because he wasn't. Now, there's some historians backpedaling saying Almanza may have lied about his age in order to get a homestead.
Oh, well, that's
making him younger.
He did.
Which makes him younger.
So
buying
maybe
a couple
it was
of years.
okay.
I don't know.
But he was born in 1857 and she was born in 1867. He may have lied to get the homestead, but he couldn't. His age
lie
didn't
on his
change.
birth actual
But
birth.
Almanza was really even older, so we're already bringing in someone younger than him to make it slightly less weird.
The chemistry between you two was so good, and it was. I mean, part of that was how dear it was.
Say. It's like it's. I feel like. So this question, this is going on way too long. We need to limit these answers. These questions.
Sorry, I know.
No,
but it's a big question.
No, it is a big question, and I think, I think the bottom line is when you're in that situation, you're committed to an outcome, and you really can't invest a lot of time in thinking about how you're personally feeling about this.
Right.
You have a job to do. Everyone has a job to do. Everyone did their job. She and I have talked about this through the years where we've said, even though it was awkward as we were doing it, I think we both look back on it and say, we did the very best we could.
Absolutely.
And we gave it our absolute best effort. And I feel good about what we achieved together, and I think she feels good about what we achieved together. So, but we can ask her that when she comes on later.
And I think
we can also ask her about we won't go into. We won't talk about that right now.
But as a married couple growing old, I think you did stick to the Laura and Almanza because Laura was bossy, and when they got married, they didn't have obey. They specifically at Almanza's request, we were striking obey from the vows.
Actually, it was at her request,
and Almanza said reassures her in the books, don't worry, the Reverend doesn't believe in that obey stuff either.
We won't do that.
So they were very forward thinking.
I agree. I love that about the relationship.
Absolutely took Laura's advice and went, well, Laura says we're doing this. I mean, that was a thing. So that was, and you guys had that.
A lot of respect for her. Yeah, I mean, as an actor, Melissa was, in a world of vast experience as an actor, Melissa was vastly more experienced than I was.
Sure.
And you could see it, you may not, despite the fact she was so much younger, but watching her work in that environment, she was incredibly comfortable with what she was doing and in charge of what she was doing and very she knew everybody's dialogue. Melissa's one of the few people, and maybe you could do this too. She's one of the few people I've ever known who could be in a scene, doing a scene with somebody and listening to the conversation that's taking place behind the camera and come out and step into that conversation like she was standing there the whole time. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she could split her focus that way, but she could do both.
When you're running the joint since you're 9, you have to. It's like being the king. It's like, I need to be able to hear all the conversations.
Yeah,
in
and
court.
she did.
I need to know.
She knew everything. All right, next question.
Yes.
Okay, Allison, this is
Okay.
the burning question
Oh,
that
no.
everyone is dying
Now
to
I'm
know.
scared. Oh, dear. What?
Allison, how was it like?
How was it?
No, that's the wrong question. How exactly did they hide your and Melissa's braces? Were they placed behind your teeth? Were they only on during hiatus? Or were they covered with wax when on camera? And Kate Gray is the one that commented on
Kate,
these are
yes.
the pressing questions people need to know.
Kate, all of the above in a way. What they did is first they started with this like, braces. And then they said, well, you can't go on camera with that stuff. So what they would do is we'd start filming, May, June-ish, right in springish, right in there. And then we'd have a little break into it. Then we'd stop in, January-ish. I had my birthday on, so it's like February. So when it would stop, they took them off. They hit right across here, were removed. The brackets were removed. Which meant that the wires were still in brackets going back on this side and all the lower. Because, hey, I didn't smile that much, and you won't see your lower teeth that much. The lowers were there. This, of course, meant it slowed the process down so that we had the horrifying headgear. And if you have had braces, you remember power chain. Ow, 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 ow.
What is power chain?
Power chain are these like rubber bands on steroids,
Okay.
and you hook one here, and then you hook it all the way back here, and it hurts like bejesus.
I had
yeah.
all of the above. I had the headgear too. I had all of it.
And then we had wax. So the lower part, if the little bit parts were shiny, and then these two brackets right here, hunks of what was called orthodontist wax, and you put that on there. Now, in 1975 and 6, when we did not have high definition and Blu-ray and everything, it worked really well.
Sure.
And generally, people would just sometimes notice that I had a lump and say, "Are you chewing tobacco in that scene?" I had that.
Yeah, it was always the bottom lip. Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. And so there was that. But generally, unless I was going downhill in a wheelchair in a close-up screaming, you really didn't see it very much.
Yeah.
And we would be doing takes, and they'd go, cut, we can see the braces. And it was like, fix your hair, fix your makeup, fix the braces.
Fix the braces.
Constant. And then, of course, now everything is super-duper high def, and everyone can see them as clear as day. And I have that lovely close-up shot of me going downhill in a wheelchair where you can completely count. You can count the brackets on my teeth.
All right. So
Horrifying.
because when they went back to the 35 millimeter film to do the transfer,
Beautiful remastering, yes.
Now you can see them.
The technology of people's television sets.
Sure.
Yeah.
is a
I mean, I
world
sent
away from what we were watching.
I sent Allison a photo that I took. I was working somewhere, and I was staying at a really nice bed and breakfast, and I had a really beautiful, like, high def TV in my room, and I turned it on, and there was Little House on the Prairie, and I went, oh no, because Little House on the Prairie should not be watched on a big high def television, because you see everything. Just, you see the makeup. I mean, you see the little hairs on their mustache.
When
you
our
see
faces
the
broke out.
kids. You see the
I'm
acne.
sorry,
You
the
saw
acne.
Allison's mustache?
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
everyone's.
I sent her a picture,
Yes.
like, girl, they're
Seriously.
doing you wrong.
And I'm blonde.
No, you
I am.
saw.
I'm blonde
You
of
saw a little
Scottish
mustache
extraction.
fuzz.
We don't even have that much hair, and you could see it. And then
No, you saw everything.
And then my face would break out.
Wow.
The acne, and the makeup artists were geniuses at
Sure.
covering any of the
Sure.
teenage acne, which clearly
Yeah.
was an issue on Little House on the
course.
Kids.
Not on high def TV.
High def, you can like see the pimple and the makeup that is used to cover it, like the brush strokes. It's and you can see if there's a gap in the makeup near your ear. You can see any facial hair, any facial scar,
Yeah.
blip, bump.
And I'm not saying that Allison was a hairy
you can
lipped,
see-
you
No,
know,
and she
blonde
wasn't.
hairy lips.
She wasn't. Yeah.
But it is the
Pale
difference between
orangutan
seeing it in
family.
high def is staggering.
And all the pierced ears. You didn't necessarily notice that people had pierced ears if their hair was over it.
Yes.
No.
But you could see everyone who had pierced ears. You could see everything, every tiny flaw. There's people posting pictures now. There's stuff that was out of shot. When we showed it, but because the framing of the new TVs,
Oh,
the
no.
remaster, there's one you can see Maury Dexter's like shirt. He's standing in the wings. He's in the freaking shot. He wasn't in the shot in 1974, but he's in the shot now.
Maybe that's why someone just posted, there's like a Little House bloopers page on Facebook, and someone just posted, a scene, it's paw, and I think Doc Baker, they're in the carriage in the
and you see the
buckboard and
person's
they're driving,
hand
and
on
you
the wagon.
see it now.
and you see a hand in the
Rocking
bottom
the
right of the
wagon.
screen rocking. But
Yeah.
and I wonder whether that's because now it's on high def. It's a wider framing.
There's something about the framing because there's stuff that was out of shot.
There's no title safe anymore. It's full frame. So
Boom.
on the 4:3 television, there was a section that was, and you framed for this. You knew what was out, so they never would have allowed. But now, when you take that away, now we're full
So
frame. So those things on the
interesting.
very edges of the frame can show up. I would have think that they would have, in the process, just done a little push, like push 10% and get inside that. You could do a cut and a cut and push in, but maybe they didn't do that.
And how many times when we're filming, we had a crew member, someone who was doing something, and they go, "Am I good? Am I in shot?
Yes.
3 inches more. Hey, man, you're good. You're out of the shot." And they were right there. They were right there.
Wow.
But they just said, just go to the, you're out of shot. You're clear. You're clear. And they'd look through the camera and go, "You're clear." Not clear now.
Oh no! So it's giving away all the secrets.
Yeah. So speaking about,
high-def
braces and all that, I so many scenes with Melissa where she'd gone out with she'd had some date the night before or had a date that night. And I just remember the day she had this white nail polish.
The super duper French manicure dealio.
Yeah.
She went down to Miss Whipple's. I told you.
Embraces, there's no open hand on an embrace. Everything was like this.
Well, Melissa Sue Anderson was famous for that because she had her
Stunning.
French manicured tips.
Beautiful nails.
So when she's in a buggy crash and she's clawing her way
and
out
again,
of the
when
carriage,
it's not,
and she's got like a bear paw. She's like
she's having to kind of like do this to not screw up her manicure. And it's like but then again, in the 70s, was it as noticeable?
No.
You just kind of went
Now
over
you'd
nails.
see it.
Now it's like flamingly obvious, whereas you might have not even noticed in the 70s.
And also, let's face it, like there was a suspension of disbelief. This was not authentic prairie living in Walnut Grove. So, the women had some blush and little mascara.
No.
The
This was
eyeliner,
absolutely
the eyeliner,
authentic.
Season 9 eyeliner. I'm claiming it right now. It was very 1980s, not 1880s. And I'm here for it. I'm not complaining about
I
it.
just want to go on record. I want to go record right now. I did not have pierced ears on the show. I did not get my ears pierced until I was 21.
Yes.
I did not have acrylic nails or even painted nails on the show because when I would go out to the Mask or Madame Wong's or down to and see bands and go see the Dead Boys and whoever else in the Clash and paint my nails electric blue and pitch black.
Or black. Yeah, black.
A lot.
Yeah.
Sunday night, I got the cotton balls and
Good
the
for
nail
you.
polish remover, and I made sure that
You
was
were
off.
a professional.
I did not get my ears pierced, and I did not have acrylic
She is the
nails,
pro,
and I
people.
She's
showed
a
no
pro.
nail polish 'cause-
She was a pro.
Well, Miss Whipple didn't get
This
it.
is
You're
what
the
separates
petty
Allison
business from you.
from the crowd.
I was kind of method. I was like,
Yeah.
no, this is what I'm doing, man. I'm in 1800.
It's just wild to me, though, that Michael Landon was like, "What are you doing showing on set with a broken French tip nail?"
It does surprise me that
That's
guy,
crazy.
Yeah.
Or they didn't like grab some polish and paint him over flesh tone or something.
Yes,
So it
it's
just would be
crazy.
like-
Maybe he just maybe he liked the women looking pretty. Maybe it didn't bother him.
I
It
don't.
was
I don't
pretty.
think he would have seen it, but I think he also trusted. Look, he and Melissa were, joined at the hip,
Yeah.
and when she said she would cover up so that no one would see it. That's what she did, and no one saw it. But you knew it was there if you were there, and it's like, oh, come on, what are you doing? Why do we have? But she made it work. She made it work, and Michael was all about. He adored her, and that she could do. I've told the story where Michael came up to me at one point and said, and he was very matter of fact about it. If there's ever a question about who wants to do what here. If it's between you and Melissa, she wins 100% of the time. Just letting you know that right up front. And it's like,
Yes.
Yeah, there was no, Melissa had the green light to call it the way she wanted to do it. She'd earned that.
She's Laura Ingalls Wilder, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. And next question.
Yes.
Okay, next question. This is again, two people asked similar questions.
Okay.
So here we go. Featherframe wants to know, Dean, when Charles punches you in the face when you open the door and go flying over the table, that was you, no stunt double. How many times did you have to do that take?
Once.
Maria
Thank God. Okay.
_ commented, No, sorry, Maria. I'll ask yours next. Not Maria. Serving11 said, I assume Dean didn't actually fall through the roof when Laura announced she was pregnant. Was it a dummy or how did that scene work? So we need two
answers.
Two answers for two physical questions.
Related.
So the first one, yes, I did go over the table. That was me. There was no stunt double. When it came to the, and by the way, that was like really a fun moment for me to do that.
It's a very dramatic fall.
Yeah, and well, on the punch. And Michael was very complimentary of my willingness to go over the table and do all that. He really liked that. That showed him something about my willingness.
It's really good.
So that worked well. On the jump for the on the roof. Yeah, that was my double Danny Doucette, who actually went through the roof and down onto the ground and then cut, and I'm rolling around getting up. So they were not going to let me drop. And that was a pretty good drop. That roof would have been, that would have been 6-7 feet. They were not going to let me go through that. But I did do the jump up and Danny fell through.
Nice.
So yeah.
So you didn't Tom Cruise it, like, no, I'm doing the roof.
No, I was not gonna do that.
The fall over the
and
table
how many
was
takes
lovely.
of the
Lovely,
fall over
lovely.
the table?
One on the table,
thank
one on the
heavens.
roof.
Oh,
Very
one and
good.
done.
Very good.
Wow.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this one because I messed up and I said her name before. So Maria _ said, why would they have the same actor play more than one character?
Because they liked
So they'd
him.
have repeat people. Because why?
Because they liked him. Because Susan and Michael liked the actor. And you may have opinion, but I think that's really what it comes down to. These people did a good job. They came in, they were prepared, they fit within the company. And Michael was willing to hire them multiple times.
It's interesting.
right.
They often were in sort of like often dream sequences or weird side plots. Like, was it Charles's sister who didn't have a big part, but she was so good she suddenly becomes Mrs. Garvey. And there's a
and Matthew
flashback.
Leberteau was on.
Matthew Leberteau.
It was
Playing
Charles,
young
a
Charles, right.
flashback. So who better than to be the adopted son? But him
it was
as a
perfect
boy.
casting, actually.
Yeah. It was a great casting.
There were many people who came back. How many times Ike Eisenman playing a foreign child with immigrant parents struggling in Walnut Grove? He was German once. He was like Polish another time.
Who was the actor?
Little Ike Eisenman.
Oh, okay.
He was there a couple times, and he was always the struggling immigrant family trying to make it in America, and it was a different language every time. And he was great.
Michael hired Eddie Quillen, who was the original cabin boy in Mutiny on the Bounty. He was an older man.
Really?
Hired him multiple times to be curmudgeonly old guys. He was awesome at. He hired Lou Ayres multiple times to come, who was an Academy Award winner. Michael had people that he really liked, and he wanted them to have an opportunity to work, and he hired them. And they always did a great job.
And that still happened. I mean, it happens now. I have a friend who's been on Law and Order 10 times.
There you
She was
go.
a lawyer one time, a victim the other time.
What season is it?
done
Season
everything.
35 of Law and Order? I mean, there's you could go through a whole career doing Law and Order.
Totally.
But you have to remember, in the 70s, cable TV wasn't invented yet, let alone streaming and DVDs. And reruns was like, they were in the summer, and then we had after school. But you didn't have a situation where people were going to watch a lot of episodes back to back. It was never going to happen.
No.
So when they had people back, they went, well, he hasn't been on in 2 years.
Right.
They'll never notice, really.
Right.
What are the odds they're going to see the episode from 2 years ago and the episode's now close together? Not really. Maybe they'll figure out, he was the guy that, but it won't be a big deal. But now people are sitting there going through all 9 seasons.
Well, you're like me in December watching the Hallmark 24/7 all day, all night, all Prairie, and needing to go on Xanax afterwards because you're
Of course you're going to see everything.
you're traumatized so bad. You're like, oh my God, this show was not meant to watch back to back like this. You need a breather, dear
funny.
Lord.
That's
okay.
funny.
It's true.
Next question.
One question,
Sarah
then we should
Schneider.
take a break.
Yes.
So let's
Okay,
last
and
question,
here's a big
Very well.
here's a big question.
Okay.
Sarah Schneider wants to know, what was it like having Jonathan back? What prompted his return? Did he have a good time? Do you think he'll ever be involved again? Can we please get him on the podcast?
Yes, great. I don't know. Like so many.
Yeah.
Okay, so Melissa and he had been talking for a while because they had not been talking. I mean, he's been out all over the world where we didn't know where he was, and then we knew where he was. It was just like another another continent. So, we didn't hear from him. And then he'd pop in, and then Melissa said, yeah, I've been talking to Jonathan again. He's like back in the U.S. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's great. And he only almost came to the Hollywood show. He was like this close. He was, maybe.
Oh,
And then-
really?
Yeah. And then for Seema, she goes, he's coming. You sure? You sure? Yes. No, I was just texting him. He's totally doing it. And at like even the morning of almost cold feet, she's texting him, get down here. I don't know. No, get down here. He was like at the front gate. She's going, just walk in. We'll go send someone out for you. And he came in. And he comes in, and we all went to pieces. We all went to, I had not seen him since 1983, so I lost my mind. And
I wonder
just
what
started
he
crying.
was afraid. I wonder what the I do wonder what was going on, like why he was like, I'm coming. No, I'm not coming. I'm coming. No, I'm
He's
coming. I
never
wonder
done
whether
anything.
he's.
Yeah.
I know, but I wonder. He's not the Invisible Man anymore, and I wonder if he's
Yes.
okay with that.
He was giving that up because, he didn't do events. We were on the show, for heaven's sake. And he just wasn't his thing. And, we talk a lot about how difficult it is to be a child actor. And he was super baby young when he started that show. And it does weird things to your head. And everyone responds differently. And his response was to go, I'm going to go away and live my life and none of you will know where I am. Waha! That's what I'm going to do. And find me. Not. Ha. And he did. And that's made him happy and gave him peace with being a child star. So then he's like back. And it's like, do I go back and just go head first into the deep end of the pool and go to this thing? Sure. Okay, fine. And then he did it, and he was a little in shock. I know we were taking pictures, and he was like going, okay, I'm kind of glad you're standing here right now. It was like, because it was really weird. And then he started enjoying it because people came up to him, and he loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
What did he say? He said something really lovely at the end. I know it got you emotionally.
I was
as
dead.
you
Oh my
heard it.
gosh, it was insane what he said.
Pamela, were you running that? Were you
Yeah,
running
that was me.
Okay.
And and again, I was not going to ask him like, hey, where have you been for 35 years? I wasn't going to do it, but someone in the audience asked, and it was the last card in my pile of Q&As. And I thought, well, I'm going to say it. It's not coming from me. It's coming from the audience, throw the audience under the bus, not me. And his answer was just, and by the way, this clip of him talking about this has gone totally viral. It's insane.
It's beautiful.
But no, he just, he talked about how he's been traveling the world and he has been on a spiritual journey and he's learned from great masters and he lived in New York for a little and he's been sort of trying. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, he's been for the past 30 years, he's been trying to figure out how to live.
Yes, to
and
learn
what
how
he
to
realized,
live. Yes.
yeah. And what he realized that weekend was that he never felt more alive than when he was with these people and doing this show. And that he realized that weekend that he had really come home. And that was just Allison. I saw the breath leave Allison's body. And and it was truly like the time stopped in that moment. The whole audience. I mean, it was just like the energy completely shifted for the 1,000 people that were in the crowd and for us on that stage. And it was a stupendous moment. But will he come back? I have no idea. None of us
I don't blame him for taking. I would take a breather after that. Yeah, he'd never done anything like that. And then he shows up at a thing with 18,000 people. I'm not quite sure if he's hiding under a desk. It was his birthday the other day. I texted him. He did answer, so he's still breathing. He's still with us.
Nice.
But I would not blame him if he was going to say, "I'll just stay under my bed for another thing." I don't know. He enjoyed it, but it was also overwhelming and crazy. I don't know what because he's Jonathan and he never lets us know what he's going to do next.
Well, it's so interesting that he's disappeared, but then he gets dressed in willy drag and does a photo shoot. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, what's going on?
Yeah, he bought in all the way. I mean, but at the end, with those wonderful pictures that were taken of the two of you and him standing in the corner of the schoolhouse and all that.
He had socks.
He bought in all the way by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
It was pretty
But he had to have planned that he was going to do that because he had the socks. He had put a picture.
And he had the costume. I mean, it was like tailor-made. I know. Yeah, thought went into that one. So, we don't know. Obviously, we would love him to come on the podcast.
Sure, but, that would be awesome.
And we
Jonathan, if you're listening, you have an open invitation to come and tell your story. And we would love to hear it.
It's not live. We had it. It's okay.
It's not live.
Just saying, man.
You can come in Prairie drag or not in Prairie drag.
That would be awesome.
Totally up to you.
Yeah, we'll all come in Prairie drag if he wants to come and do it that way.
But I will say it was definitely the sort of the big thing happening.
yeah.
I mean, outside of the other huge big things happening that
He
weekend.
upstaged all of us. Okay,
Oh, no, it
let's
was
just
great.
say it. And it was brilliant,
big.
and I
It was
loved
great.
it.
Yeah, and I think it raised the level of the event.
It did.
It really did. It did. He
no getting
did
around
something very, very special that weekend
Yeah.
for the program, for all of us, for fans who just felt like they were getting something that no one had ever seen before. And they hadn't. That made that an incredibly special moment.
I was posting on Facebook leading up to it, like, okay, here's his table any minute now. We don't know. We haven't heard. We don't know. And then all I posted was, he's here. Just 2 words from Facebook. He's here. And suddenly it's hundreds of comments going, oh my God, I'm crying now. Oh my God, yes. Nobody had to ask who I meant. He's here.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Indeed.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
Huzzah. Okay, more questions. We really run the gamut with the
is
type of
great.
questions we've got. So,
loving
all right,
this.
I'm trying to mix it up a little. Here we go. Rachel Penner asks, was there ever a time when you guys were laughing so much it made it impossible to finish a scene? I'd love to hear any answer. And she says, I love Little House. You guys are literally my childhood, and I'm only 19.
Oh,
I love it that a 19-year-old
I
today
know.
is watching the show and loving
I
it.
know.
It just speaks so wonderfully to the multi-generational appeal of this, and that
keeps going.
it crosses all boundaries.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter that it was old when it was new. It was never in fashion. It was never out of fashion because it was never really in fashion.
Yeah.
It lives in its own space, which allows people to discover it fresh and feel like they can just take it as it comes. I think that's awesome. Awesome.
Me too.
Laughing in moments.
Scenes with Catherine McGregor.
Well, Catherine was always just a riot. I can't do interviews. There's no conversation I have about Little House that doesn't wind its way to Catherine McGregor and her contribution to the program, which was just so huge. There was like this bubble of fun around these scenes that she was in because she was absolutely fearless in the way that she would step into something.
And there were times where you weren't sure what she was going to do because she would do stuff.
That's the best, though.
It's great.
Catherine and I, it was very Carol Burnett, Harvey Korman, Tim Conway stuff would happen, and we
All at
would
the same time.
lose
She could be all three of
our
those
marbles.
people at one time.
Yes, exactly. And
Totally.
she would do things in a scene where, because she would say, I want a prop. I feel comfort. I want a prop. I want a thing. I want an apple. I want a dish rag, whatever. She'd have something in her hands and she'd worry.
Yes.
So you never quite know what she was going to do with it. And depending on the scene, you'd be talking to her and she would suddenly take that apple and in your face, take a big bite of it, just go hum, 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 like at you. And you didn't know that was going to happen. And then you just she would, and then I got her
But
her
it's
several
little stuff
times.
like that too, though, that made her character so human. As
Totally.
big and crazy as it
Totally.
was also so human.
She
Totally.
did a thing.
You could see this woman
God.
biting an apple in your
Yeah,
face,
she
and it was
real. I mean,
completely believable.
She also did a thing, and it worked in scene, but it's a thing that normally in acting class they say, oh my God, never ever do this. What a horrible thing to do on camera or to the other actor. Don't ever do this. And of course, she did it all the time, but it worked because that woman, Mrs. Olsen, would have done it. So don't repeat back the other person's line and imitate it at them.
Oh,
It's considered quite rude. Like, mother, I love the pig farmer guy. And I love the pig farmer guy. And then like say her line. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
Oh, so that wasn't written. That was Catherine McGregor.
Yeah, but she would do it.
She's a genius.
And would be like, because it was hysterical. And I was supposed to be getting mad at her. And what could possibly piss you off more than somebody doing that? I was like, what did you just do? So it was brilliant. It totally worked. And I got her, though. I mean, it was something about what. Oh my God, would you want to end up with a rabbi on your hands? The whole Jewish baby thing. It was just out of control, the stuff we said. And her line was, do you want to end up with a rabbi on your hands? Which is hilarious enough, a bizarre thing to say to somebody. Yes. So we had trouble getting through that scene. She was already cracking up, going, what does that even mean? I don't even want to think, oh my God, what am I saying? And so we would crack up. And then it was time for a close-up. And she'd been cracking me up all day, and I was just fit to be tied. So it was her close-up. I was off camera. And she said, do you want to end up with a rabbi on your hands? And I just went, like, wipe my hands off on my pants. And that was it. She was down, finished, gone, hysterical, ruined.
Yeah,
and it was great fun.
She was very special. And, and Michael at the end of scenes, like he would never blow up the middle of a scene because he was so focused on getting through the material.
Yeah, getting her done.
But he would improvise at the end of a scene when he knew he was clear. And, he'd gotten it done. Everything was good. And then he would riff for a moment about something. But it was always or quick one-liner thing that would button a scene with a really big laugh. And that was really fun. He would do that. And Victor could do the same thing.
Or a finger up your nose. Did you get the finger up the nose?
No.
So I'm lying there in the field after having run headfirst into a tree branch, and I'm pretending to be unconscious, and they're screaming, "Get Doc Baker!" And they run away, and it's the close-up as I'm just lying there, unconscious, the fake blood running out of my nose. I'm kind of enjoying this. It's kind of comfortable there, but I'm going, shouldn't they have said cut by now? I've been lying there for a really long time, and then I hear whispering and giggling, and then I feel this as Michael Lennon sneaks up and sticks his finger in my nose.
Yeah, there you go. Did he ever have you run away from the camera and did you didn't really run?
I didn't.
No,
but yes, they keep running. They keep running.
Yes.
When I
Melissa
did,
always.
he did that.
Seems like a common thread.
He would
yes.
just go, just keep going. And then it became hilarious because there's a shot if you just take off into the distance, like disappear. Yeah, so we did that one.
We had the best conditioned cast of young actors who could run endlessly. I mean, people were in, and Melissa ran everywhere. So
I mean, she ran out of every scene.
She ran everywhere,
and she ran when she wasn't running. I mean, she got her steps in, but she just ran all the time.
Yeah.
Girl got the steps in. Okay, yes, she ran almost every scene.
Yes.
Okay, Rena Swarkles, what a good name. Rena Swarkles wants to know, Allison, what storylines would you have liked to see Nellie have if you had stayed on the show? Do you wish there when they blew up the town? And what do you think Nellie's reaction would have been? Were you pleased with the restaurant storyline, or were you disappointed to not be in the schoolhouse?
I love the restaurant story. I loved having a restaurant, and I thought it was very funny that in real life I can cook. I'm very good. I love cooking, and that I was playing someone who could not cook to save their lives. I thought that was
and had
hysterical.
no interest in
and
cooking.
nor did she like cooking. To do the riot. I think so much more could have gone on with Nellie and Percival, obviously, if we'd stayed. Once I got nice, it was like they weren't quite sure, now what do we do?
Sure.
We have another nice lady. What is there another nice lady? And I remember the last...
Well, there was Nancy to sort of be, be the devil.
The bad
that
girl.
Was
the thing. She only came after I left. Right before I left, I noticed that my last couple of scenes involved saying 2 more lamb stews and would you like coffee? And I went, now, come on now. Why have me in? Just leave me out of this episode then. And I would have liked to seen if it had gone on, perhaps Nellie have sort of a relapse.
Yes.
Something go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And she just starts having mood swings. And Percival tries to calm her down. And
Nellie gets a hormone imbalance.
No, Doc Baker has Reverend Alden have to step in.
That would have been
and things just get nutty again.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And then coming down. Because one of my favorite episodes is where I got to do both, where I'm only nice when Percival's in the room, which I would have kept that up for several episodes easily, where I would be saying, yes, dear, yes, of course, and then turn around and go, coming right up, and throw things. I liked that. I would do that all day.
Yeah.
So yes, I would have liked to have had more fun. They stopped letting her have quite as much fun. The twins, of course. Oh my God, we had the babies, we had fun, and then they kind of went, well, now we've done that. And that's why I kind of felt towards the end. I was like, I'm not doing anything. Oh dear. So I would have liked a little more excitement. Maybe we could have had another kid. Maybe the kids are getting older. The parents show up again, and we have to question how we're raising the children, Jewish or Gentile. Anything.
These are the challenges. These are the challenges that a long-run series faces.
Yeah, of course.
Goes that long.
How do you keep this going? I think that's a huge. Clearly, that's been the challenge that has driven long-term series forever.
I was a child on the show. Yeah, they were writing for a 12-year-old, and then I become an adult and everything, and then I'm married, and then I have kids, and of course the writers were exhausted. They were like, now what? And so what do you do? That is the hard part. So I'd have loved to have seen a little more excitement, I think, if it had gone on. And, and then if we did move away, hey, do an episode where Percival and Nellie go to New York and go to that New York street and do Nellie and Percival at their shop in New York. What a scream.
Sure.
And,
Spin-off.
Cool. I would do that.
I smell a spin-off.
Yeah. It's all about all that. There's such a fine line dynamic. It's where the rights are.
Of course.
The rights that allow that enable the show to be done those rights emanate from what's on the pages of the books. That becomes a real question creatively as to how far you can, as long as you're in the realm of what was the overarching story of the books, there are things that you can do. But when you leave completely,
utterly,
because then
Nellie
that becomes more challenging.
Appears in De Smet, and then not, and then she's just gone, and then really she's in Oregon marrying Henry Curry and having 3 children. But there you go. But who knew? So
do you wish you could have been there when they blew up the town?
Kind of, because it was a very moving episode. I know there's cast members like Charlotte who said, I will never watch that thing. It's too much. And the people who have watched it found it absolutely traumatizing. I will admit, the very, very first time I watched it, I giggled because it's when the first place they blew up the blind school first, right? Which was enormous. Okay, and the first thing they blew up, they put, a lot of explosives in it.
Oh, yeah.
They hadn't quite calculated how much it would take. So they just said, let's put it all in. And you can see the board sailing, flipping over right at the camera, and then they cut, and you go,
I wonder what happened there.
That hit the camera. That's when they all screamed and ran away, and it hit the camera, and they went, don't put that much dynamite in next time. And then you see the other explosions are far more controlled. And something about the chaos of it, which I think was attractive to Michael too. He did like blowing things up. Yeah. The chaos and insanity of it, of seeing the blind school clearly go up and clearly a not controlled explosion. I went, whoa, well, this is interesting. I'll watch this. I like that. I would have loved to have pushed a plunger, but I also think it would have been very moving because it is the place we grew up. Was our town. It was our home. And I saw how everyone who was there, nobody was acting. Everyone was really sobbing. And I think I absolutely would have wept to see the restaurant fall apart. I had gone to pieces.
Yeah.
So I would have loved to have been, that'd have been great.
No one had to tell anybody what to do on that day. It was all pretty self-evident what you were going to do because you just felt it. You looked around, the smoke's rising from. So, I think we've said this before, but the explosions happened on one day, and we saw the explosions when we pushed the plungers in terms of the character sees, but the explosions happened on another day. And the aftermath of the smoke rising from the ruins happened on a third day.
But to show up on set and see the rubble,
yes,
you just
awful.
spent your entire adolescence.
Yeah, that was
holy
tough.
Jeez.
Yeah, I can only imagine how Melissa and anybody who had been, and crew members who had been there from day one. That would have been pretty wild.
Well, I would have gone bonkers because one time years ago, Bob and I were in Simi, taking friends up Simi, and Bob actually found it. There were some vestiges of the rope on the tree by the school that held the swing. Oh, it was beaten up. Part of it was burned and blackened from one of the fires that had swept through quickly. But by God, he found it. Oh, I don't know how long I cried and threw a fit. It was fantastic. I was like, oh my God, you found the swing. Yeah. So I absolutely would. But then you get into the whole alternative universe thing where what if I'd stayed? Obviously, the usual Hollywood things of how much were they paying and how much time off were they agreeing to give me versus not, and why people leave shows. And people go, hey, I just turned 18. I can do other things. Oh, my God, my career, I should do other. All those things were on the table and discussed ad nauseum by my team and everything. What do we do? Do we go? Do we stay? Do we stay? Do we go? Yeah. But now, of course, if I'd known if they'd said it'll only be 2 years, I'd probably gone,
of course.
But they were asking for some insane number of Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke years. It was going to be decades. And so if it had been only 2 years, and had I stayed, well, I would have gotten those other 2 years in, and it would have been fascinating. And then you become the question, had Nellie stayed to interact with Laura, would it have gone on for more than 2 years? And then it's just the whole step on a butterfly, kill all the dinosaurs. What does this mean? How do you, change time? I don't know.
No, we really, these things happen the way they happen. I think the program was ready to end. I think we had run the course. We had essentially exhausted the books.
Yes.
And it was just time. I think, look, as much as those of us whose positions on the call sheet rose dramatically in season 9 after Michael and Karen and children, that was all wonderful for us. But Little House was that family.
Yeah.
You can put different people in there and lovely actors and wonderful stories, but you can't replace Michael. There's just no replacement for that. There's an iconic presence, and that he and Karen together were amazing, and it was just time. I think he recognized that he had said everything that he needed to say on the, with the series. I mean, when you start doing For the Love of Blanche.
Yeah, the orangutan.
That orangutan episode was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like that we were this weekend at the Cherry Blossom, and someone talked about the fact that they loved that episode. And I had to say, not me.
Not so much.
Not so much,
Blanche.
Yeah. But
there are people who love that episode.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
Of course.
It's like
there are people who love
episode.
every episode. But I just felt
that was truly a jump the shark.
Yeah, I thought so.
I mean, truly like the quintessential jump the shark moment.
I always say jump the shark moment is when Colonel Sanders shows up. And I mean, oh, God.
Oh, my God.
But, okay, you're right. Because, Michael, I forget which country it's in, but in one of the bazillion countries it's translated into, and many places do call it, La Petite Maison de la Prairie, but they change the family Ingalls is like a name. It's the Michael Landon show.
Oh, wow.
In a couple countries.
Oh, wow.
Because Prairie, none of it translated, so they just called it the Michael Landon Show because they knew him from Bonanza.
Right.
So, what are you going to do then?
Yeah, that's the Michael Landon Show minus Michael. Tough.
Right. Exactly.
It was time, and I think incredibly grateful for the opportunity we had. But none of us were going to replace an icon. Is bottom line the way that happened.
Dean, when you got that script and you opened it and you were like, Blanche is an orangutan? What? Like what? I want to know the thought process. Were you like, oh no.
No,
what's happening?
I think the way that works, I mean, I was recounting this last weekend. When you're on this conveyor belt,
yeah,
and that's what it is when you're
of course.
Series, the material is coming at you so fast. It's just the next script. There isn't time to process or ask those questions. Why are we doing this? And by the way, if there had been time, that is not a question that ever would have been asked.
Right?
No, of course not. Of course
never
not.
going to question
wow,
that.
There's an orangutan. Okay, there's an orangutan.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
I mean, you get the script and you start shooting it 2 days later. I mean, the orangutan's been hired. Everybody's ready to go.
The orangutan has already opened champagne with its agent and called all its friends.
He had signed the contract.
Friends to say, I'm going to be on Tuesday night. Come on.
Can't renege on the orangutan. Of course not.
I mean, so that it's just one of those. It's one of those things that It happened, as I've said so many times, Victor could act with any being.
Yeah, I mean, God bless him.
He's so
Victor
good at
was
that.
amazing. He could do anything, and he made that work.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
He just made it
Brilliant
work.
at it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what the
Okay.
people who like it. They're like, wow,
And
Victor
we need
is
to-
acting
we
his
need
butt
to
off.
do we can maybe do one or
One
A
more.
tiny.
two
Okay,
more.
I'll do
We
a
need
nice
to-
wrap up.
Okay. It's just great
Okay.
therapy, but we
Okay.
should,
Yes.
Yeah, I know,
it's
and there
lovely.
still are more questions.
Oh,
so
of course.
you know,
We'll do
here
this
we go.
again.
So we'll wrap this
Yes.
one up.
Okay.
Here we go. Paulina Nunzensky, sorry, Paulina, if I'm mispronouncing it, commented, how does it feel to know that you were a positive influence on thousands of people around the world? I am one of them. Big kisses from Chile.
Oh, wow.
I just
What do you think?
mind blown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, every day. I mean, some years ago when I realized it was all over the world and time zones, I went, so at some moment, all day long, 24 hours a day, every day, somebody somewhere is in front of a
watching Little
television
House.
going, I
Yep.
hate her. It's, it's 24 hours no matter what I'm doing. I wake up in the night. Somebody somewhere is watching me right now. I love
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's a little disturbing. And it's I'm brushing my teeth and somebody somewhere is watching me on TV.
Yeah.
It's very surreal, and the day that sinks in, it kind of blows your mind.
Yeah.
And then to have all the people come to us now and say, you made my childhood. You
Yeah.
saved my life. Oh,
Yeah.
the number of people I was in the hospital with, chemotherapy, a body cast. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. But I watched Little House on the Prairie for
Yeah.
weeks, months, whatever it took. You saved my life. I was depressed, but then I watched Little House on the Prairie. The things that people went through, and Little House was part of their lives. My grandma was my best friend. We watched the episodes.
Addicts, a lot of addicts
Yes.
used Little House on the Prairie.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
through. I got my sobriety because I was able to watch Little House when it got hard. An episode of Little House made me give up and go to rehab.
Yeah.
And we hear this all the time, and that's a lot of psychological and emotional responsibility to lay on a person. And it's especially for something you did when you were in junior high. And came in from Melissa, who was like 9. It's a lot, and it boggles the mind and the imagination. It's an incredible thing, and eventually you kind of like stop hyperventilating and can go, okay, wow, I guess we did that. I mean, I didn't know I was doing that at the time. I wasn't
Right. You
intentionally
don't know you're doing
I
that at
can't
the
say,
time.
oh, I did that because I was intentionally
Right.
going, yes, the millions. But it still happened, and I did do it. And we are, in fact, responsible, whether we intended to do at the time,
Right.
for bringing this thing to millions of people and being role models and helping them in whatever weird way. And I guess we just have to go, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Michael knew very well what he was achieving with this. I think he was crystal clear about his vision, about what he wanted to achieve, and I think it was wrapped up in his horrible childhood. It was wrapped up in seeing so many people struggling to get through. I think when he read the Little House script, as much as he deviated from it eventually, or that inciting, that initial idea, I think he saw it as a vehicle in which he could tell stories about things that mattered to him deeply, and where he was working things out for himself. I've long believed that Little House was the family that Michael wanted to have.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think he built his own beautiful family, and he did all that. But I think if he's flashing back to his youth, this is the family and the relationship with his parents, that he wanted to create that to replace something that he didn't have when he was a youngster. And just a very, very special mission, a calling that he had to do this. And we are all the wonderful beneficiaries of this. We got to be his players in these stories that were so important to him to tell. I mean, maybe, for the love of Blanche aside.
We don't know what childhood trauma he was.
Yeah, I
working
have
out.
no
Maybe.
idea about that.
That could be a thing.
No
He was
idea
working
about
out
that,
something,
but
clearly.
yeah, except
Yeah.
but this was, when you look at the really beautiful episodes in the series, and there are so many of them that touch the heartstrings in a way that is just primal.
Yeah.
you just know that this was really, really important to him. And he knew exactly what he was doing.
The mixed religion household with Percival, and that was his parents. His father was Jewish and his mother was, and they fought bitterly about this. And so absolutely all these things were there. And he knew also, because he'd been on Bonanza for 8 bazillion years, he knew Bonanza went all over the world. And he was a kid when he started Bonanza. He was very young, but he saw Bonanza go all over the world. He met people from all these other countries saying, I love your show. Oh, the family, that man and his 4 sons, it's like me and my kids. So he went, oh, hey, wait a minute. There's a thing that happens here. He knew. He knew there was a thing that could happen.
Yeah, I think when he read it, I think he, the fact that, that sort of origin story goes that that Ed Friendly sent his daughter Brooke up to Tower Road with the script on a Sunday morning and put it in Michael's mailbox. And on Sunday afternoon, the phone rang in the Friendly house, and it was Michael on the phone saying emphatically he wanted to come down and sit with Ed and talk about this. He got it right away. I think it was just very, very clear to him what he would do with this if he got his hand on it. So not only did he want to direct it, but he wanted to star in it too. And wow, what a gift for all of us to have gotten to be a part of that with him.
Well, I have to ask, when you first saw Manzo on the page, did it jump off the page? Did you, the first time you read the script, even if you didn't know from Little House of the, did you read and go, this guy? Oh, wow, this guy. Did something happen when you read the script of, yes, if I get this, this is a great idea. I want this.
I think my agent knew it. No,
funny.
She knew it.
She knew.
I just wanted to be embraced, somewhere. And I think, parts find actors. Actors don't find it's like the right person eventually walks in the door. Allison walked in the door and delivered that speech.
Yeah.
And it was crystal clear. This is the only person that's going to play this part. It's just like you owned that when you stood up and said, my house is the best house in all of Walnut
It jumped
Grove.
off the page when I sat down and they handed me the sides and I went, what Little House I read for that? What is Little? I never read the book. And I went, and I did my phone. This girl, this is not a normal part. This is not normal. And I read it and I was just like, I gasped. Yes, it jumped off the page and bit me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sweetness of it, I got. As Allison said, this is not a normal girl. What I got was this is really it's a sweet, gentle story here, the beginning, and I didn't really know because I didn't know the books, and as much as you can tell, this is going to be a big part of this show, but you don't know that. You're just reading the script that you have an opportunity to read, and there was no question that it was a really nice script to start with, and all the fun things that were going on in it. It was a wonderful way to step into the show. So I, eternally grateful.
Totally, I knew the show was good because that was the thing. I said, not normal. I'd read for a million little girl parts.
You read for Laura, for God's sake. Imagine what Little House would have been.
No,
if Allison Arngrim had ended up as Laura Ingalls. I mean, it just would have been like the devil child.
Yes, the bad seed on the prairie.
It would have been so bad. But that's the thing. I'd read for a million parts. And as you know, okay, you watch these movies. How often is it that sometimes the roles that are written for child actors aren't very good?
No, they're saccharine and they're not realistic and they're boring, a little ingenue. And of course.
In Mary Poppins, like who talks like that, I always want to make this poor kids. But you see, and they're just treacly and like nobody talks like that. Well, I was a smart child and I knew that. And many times I'd gone to read and gone, again, well, all right.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
And just cringed in horror at how bad the show was.
Right.
So when I read that, I went, someone actually wrote a child character who talks. What show is this? They are allowing someone to be this.
And as a closing thought, the fact that you saw that, you processed that, you have nurtured this for 50 years. You have nurtured this. And
too good.
it is essential to your identity. The fact that you got to be this woman and your many things But this core idea that people love about you is what a gift that is.
She wouldn't go away, so what was I to do? So I said, "All right, come in."
I guess I'm going to jump into that.
I guess this is what I'm doing. So
you did.
Yeah. Lean in, girl.
Yeah.
Lean in.
Leaned in.
Yeah.
This was awesome. You guys, your questions are always so
crazy.
great. I try to get to all of them. Please forgive me if I don't respond to all of them, but know that I am reading them and I am looking at them. We will be doing more Q&As, I'm sure. And just one thing, Dean and Allison, we asked last time, what do they want to see from the podcast going forward?
Allison, let's have you read the copy.
Let's
read the copy, Allison, and then I'll say.
So if you could go, let's go to a break. And let Allison read the copy, and we'll button it with the other sponsors, and then let's come back to that. And very quick, we're looking for like a minute to get out.
No, definitely. I can list it as 4 things.
Yeah, here we go.
We'll be right back with your responses right after this.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers. Hike through iconic Hollywood locations. And end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Library. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. It's less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles, 30 minutes from Universal Studios. Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
We also want to thank Alexander GMC of Simi Valley, Golden State Water Company, Marketingscape, Strathern Historical Society, WM, formerly Waste Management, and Vista at Simi Valley Assisted Living. Thank you all for your support of the 50 for 50 podcast.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, so the things that people responded with what they would like to see from our podcast going forward.
Okay.
They want to see definitely more cast interviews, and specifically maybe 2-parter cast interviews, because they say we always run out of time and they want to hear more. Also, a lot of people want to hear from crew members. Yes. They really want to hear from crew and that aspect of the production. And they also said definitely specific episode deep dives. They agree that they thought that maybe chronological order would be good. But either a we're not going to do every episode, but definitely episode deep dives, episode recaps, and behind the scene stories. So I think sort of a continuation of what we're doing. Let's get a few crew people in here if we can.
Yeah, we can. We can.
Good.
And we will.
And we will.
Run for the exit.
Boo. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us this week. We will be back next week. You can check us out on all of our socials, Little House 50 Podcast, and our website, www.littlehouse50podcast.com. You can link up with us that way. And again, keep those questions and comments coming. We love hearing from you. Like and subscribe. And, the podcast is getting going. We're having some exciting stuff coming up soon that we'll be really excited to announce to you guys. So stay tuned. Bob, get the wig.
And we're flying now.
We're flying.